December, we told you about local contractor Seth Waddell, arrested and charged with multiple counts of grand theft. Several victims told us they lost tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars from paying for work that was never done. That led investigative reporter Morgan Romero to dig into the contractor registration system as a whole. Morgan joins us now. Morgan, this is a complex story that you dug into. What exactly did you learn?
Yeah, well, Abby, after our first story aired, I received dozens of messages and saw hundreds of comments on social media, people essentially alleging the same thing happened to them. When I investigated Idaho's contractor registration system, I found a lenient process with loopholes that allows bad actors to take advantage of homeowners.
It creates a hazard for a home. There's nails that are still uphold that need to be pushed down. Wood itself is rotten, so there's sag kind of right where you are. And then on the end here, there's a lot of significant rot. That's honestly just dangerous for kids.
The Rolifsons got multiple quotes to redo their deck.
We were gonna cut some of this and have a little bit of a smaller area.
They thought they did everything right.
I liked how polished everything was and how they had timelines set in advance.
They checked Seth Waddell's Idaho contractor registration, found no disciplinary actions, read reviews, and signed a contract. Waddell asked for half the payment up front. How much did you give him?
We gave him $18,000. He immediately started making excuses. He started blaming us for things, and then he just stopped communicating altogether. Refused to send receipts, refused to come out and discuss, refused to get contractors out here.
So he ghosted you guys?
Just completely.
But then they found him on the Ada County Jail roster and on KTVB. Seth Waddell, who lives in Eagle, is accused of taking payments from 3 people but never finishing work.
We've saved up a substantial amount of money to try and get this.
Most states require contractors be licensed. The rest have no statewide licensing or registration, leaving it up to local cities or counties. Or, like Idaho, they require contractors be registered, not licensed.
They don't have to show any competency in the profession.
Bob McLaughlin is the Public Information Officer for the Division of Occupational and Professional Licenses, DOPL, which oversees the contractor board and registration.
There's no education requirement. They just pay a registration fee of $100, $50 per year, a biannual registration, and show that they have a certain level of liability insurance. I think the limit is $300,000. We had one of our investigators say that if you had a dog, a pickup, and $100, you're in business as a contractor.
It's true. Even I could be a general contractor in the state of Idaho if I wanted to work on a project worth more than $2,000. You just go on the Division of Occupational and Professional Licenses website, fill out this basic registration information. You can register as an individual or as a business. You go to this application questionnaire. It asks you some questions like, is your business registered? And it asks you if you've ever had a license or registration revoked, suspended, or disciplined in Idaho or any other state. And it asks if you've ever been convicted of a felony in Idaho or any other state. DOPL would then review my application and say yay or nay.
They make that attestation, and if they lie on their application and then they get into trouble here, then that will be an additional charge, an additional fine if they lie on their application.
Who brings that forward?
That's if a complaint is filed against them, and then there's an investigation.
If someone marks yes on the license discipline or criminal conviction question, the board can decide whether or not they'll allow them to register based on their prior discipline or charges. As Idaho's law stands now, contractors can even lose their registration here and re-register under a different name.
I think that the system is structured for good actors, for people that legitimately want to have a business. And it's loosely structured to support that. But unfortunately, with that loose structure also comes bad actors taking advantage of that system.
Idaho has very few regulations around contractor registration and some of the weakest protections for homeowners in the country.
Right here, it's kind of the Wild West.
Treasure Valley attorney Christian Martineau says the playbook is simple.
They're going to set up an LLC, register as a contractor, generate a bunch of fake online reviews, go out, take deposits from people, maybe do a little bit of work, maybe not, and then they're going to run.
Homeowners in Washington and Idaho accuse Waddell of doing exactly that. McLaughlin says DOPL receives more complaints from the public against contractors than all of their 43 other boards and commissions. Data shows complaints against contractors more than doubled between 2023 and 2025, with 485 complaints filed last fiscal year. Of those, about 260 were investigated, and just 15 resulted in formal discipline, meaning Doppel investigators found the contractor broke the law, so the agency restricted or revoked their registration and/or issued fines. McLaughlin says cases are backlogged, leading in part to the low number of formal disciplinary action. Contractors can also face smaller punishments, which aren't made public.
And it might be just a letter of reprimand or something like that, just like a slap on the wrist. But if it's egregious enough that it results in formal discipline, then it results in an order that goes before the board, and then that becomes public record on our website. And sometimes it's just a matter of educating the licensees or registrants in this case.
But Doppel only deals with administrative law, not civil or criminal.
Once the complaint is filed, we can help make it tougher for bad actors to stay in business at Doppel. But pretty much by the time we get a complaint, the damage is usually done.
Under Idaho law, there's limited recourse for homeowners who get scammed.
The homeowner still has to go out, file a civil lawsuit, and try and recover, which makes it really difficult. Litigation takes years. From start to finish. If it goes to trial, it can take easily 2 years.
I found some contractors, like Waddell, dissolve and register under multiple LLCs. Martineau says
It's not a red flag.
that's not inherently shady, but bad actors exploit it.
These companies that are dissolved are often just shells, right? And so when a homeowner is taken advantage of and they have to go after a dissolved LLC where the assets have already been moved into another LLC and maybe it's under a new person's name, right? All these different claims to get after the person behind the LLC makes it more expensive. And contractors that are bad actors know that, right? And what they will do is make the enforcement costs more than the actual cost of recovery.
And it's not guaranteed the contractor will even have any money to pay back. Victims can also take contractors to small claims court, which is different than a civil suit, for up to $5,000, file a complaint with the Attorney General's office, and file a report with police. But those steps usually don't make the homeowner whole.
It's important to realize, though, that the majority of Idaho contractors are good, hardworking people. The issue is that there are these bad actors, but they're opportunists. They're going to find any opportunity, whether it's in contracting or some other industry, to take advantage of people.
We were ashamed of ourselves for falling victim to this.
Ready, set, go. Woof, you found one.
I'm a military veteran, my wife's in healthcare. I can't believe someone would look you in the face, come into your home, agree to do things, and then just take your money and run.
Specialty trades are different in Idaho. Public works contractors need actual state licenses, not just registration, as do electrical, plumbing, and HVAC contractors on private projects. Those require exams and proof of experience. So the big question is, Abby, what can be done to protect homeowners? Well, we are going to look into solutions, including legislation that we expect to be proposed at the State House very soon, tomorrow on the news at 10.
All right, thank you, Morgan. We'll be right back after this break.